Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The wheels have begun turning for an eventual showdown between former WBO champion Joseph Parker and his fellow New Zealand rival Junior Fa, with their respective camps making contact with each other over a prospective fight. Because these guys came up in the amateur system together and were 2 wins apiece across 4 fights, I've always expected at some point in their careers, their professional careers, that they would meet. And Parker, he actually turned pro quite early, whereas Fa, he ended up taking a few years out of the sport, came back, turned pro a couple of years ago and has been sort of making up for lost time. But for me, an eventual fight between these two, it actually hinges on Fa, and for a couple of reasons, and I will get to that shortly. But first, the New Zealand Herald, it reports that Parker and Fa's teams have been in preliminary talks, and they say that the fight won't happen in the short term, but it could happen within the next 18 months to 2 years. Interestingly though, the article is mostly a backgrounder on where the two are currently at in their respective careers. It draws a reference for a Parker and Fa fight to the Shane Cameron and David Tua fight back in 2009. That was another big domestic clash in New Zealand, and it set the New Zealand pay-per-view record, which is a reported 85,000 buys. And fun fact, that was actually David Higgins' first big boxing promotion. And Tua and Cameron, they both took home purses of $500,000 apiece. That is New Zealand dollars, that is. Fa's manager, he is quoted in the story, but it's actually in reference to Joseph Parker, saying that he's had a couple of losses, but he's still a top 10 fighter. He's world class. There's not actually a whole lot in this article, and my read on this whole situation is the paper. It's been fed a tip on these preliminary talks, and it's all designed to actually seed the idea of the fight publicly, sort of get the idea out there, sort of get the word out, and just sort of, start building towards something in 18 months, 2 years' time. But what really grows this fight into a money spinner of sorts with some actual hype behind it is if Fa can actually have some breakout performances over the next year or so. Currently, he's at 15-0. He's been working his way through the levels, and his most impressive performance to date was a demolition job against Fred Latham in 2017, late 2017. And that performance, it really did turn some heads. It got him on ESPN's sort of prospects to watch list at the end of last year. And that performance against Latham, it followed a change in coach, more commitment to his diet and more commitment to his training, and he got the results. And he had also begun working with a sports psychologist to help prepare him better mentally for his fights. And clearly with that one, it sort of did the trick. But unfortunately for Fa, the couple of performances that he's had since against Craig Lewis and Mexican champ Luis Pascual, he's looked a bit off the boil. He's looked a bit one-dimensional. There have been some reported injury and other health concerns, but the full story on that, it hasn't really come out. So it'll be interesting to hear from Fa eventually on what has been going on there. But while he might have laboured to a couple of wins more recently, he still kept winning, and he has managed to pick up a regional WBO strap, and that's, as a result, landed him in the WBO rankings at number 12. That's his first ranking. So he really needs to springboard from this, keep working through the levels, and he obviously needs to get fully healthy, and he needs to get a couple of statement performances, some wins over some higher level opposition to really build some buzz back into his name. I mean, he was due to have a couple more fights this year, but things since that Pascual fight in June, it's gone a bit quiet, so it's not exactly clear what's happening next for Junior Fa, but hoping to hear something soon in respect of that. But in respect of a fight with Joseph Parker, if he can build his name, get some legitimate wins as a fringe contender / contender level wins, it's going to bump up the value of an all New Zealand clash with Parker. And Parker, you'd think at this stage, he would be the favourite heading into any fight with Fa, but a lot can change in 18 months or 2 years. I mean, just think, 6 months ago, Joseph Parker was an undefeated champion. He was 24-0, and 6 months later, he's 24-2. So, who knows where Joseph Parker will be in 18 months or 2 years. He may actually really want to take this fight at that point. We'll have to see. But in terms of Fa and his known prospects, I think it would be safe to say that a Joseph Parker fight could end up being his biggest, or at least close to his biggest, payday of his career, regardless of whatever happens from this point. And both guys would probably command close to, or somewhere around $1 million payday if it were built the right way, like the Cameron and Tua fight was. I mean, previously I have spoken to Farr about Joseph Parker and any potential future matchup, and this is what he did have to say.
It'll be a great fight, and possibly a fight that'll have to happen, I know there's not too much of a demand for it right now, but I know as I continue to climb the ranks and as the New Zealand public see that there is another contender, there will definitely be a demand for the fight. So I'm not too sure when, but if it does happen, I think him and I will both be more than happy to go toe-to-toe in the ring again.
And regardless of where they're at eventually and when they do fight, if one guy is up and one guy is down in his career, the fight is going to happen at some point. I've got no doubt about that. It's too big an opportunity to make some easy money and also have a good fight. So, I'm expecting it will happen at some point. But let's hope Junior Farr can keep progressing so it ends up being one that we can really get our teeth into and look forward to. Not one where they're well past their prime and we go, well, that was a waste of time. No one wants to see that. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often. Hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. That's boxing_squared. I'm out.